So as you lie on your back, just make yourself comfortable with any props that you need. You're welcome to have something underneath the head to get started. We'll probably start with our knees bent, so you don't need to worry about anything underneath the knees. I'm going to stay seated to center with you, but I'll invite you guys onto your backs. Once you settle in, just kind of relax the body into your mat. And begin to follow your breath. So observe your body breathing. Observe the quality of your breath this morning. Noticing if there's any restrictions. And we're going to gradually lengthen the breath with using the finger meditation. You may have done this once with me before. So we're going to take our thumbs to the base of our pinkies. So you're going to have your arms a little ways out from your side, palms up. And you're going to take, on your inhale, you're going to slide the thumb all the way up to the tip of the pinky. And the exhale, slide it back down to the base. And then you'll move over to the ring finger and do the same thing. Inhale up to the tip of the ring finger. And then the exhale, it slides back down. You move to the pointer or the middle finger. Inhale, slide up to the tip. And exhale back down to the base. And then the same thing on the pointer finger. Just inhaling up to the tip of the finger and exhaling back down. And then you'll just go right back to the pinky. And you'll do that again. The inhale, we slide up to the tip of the fingers, and the exhale, we slide back down. And as you're working with this particular kind of mudra and meditation combo, it's a very calming and grounding exercise. So it helps to bring us into this moment. And then you can begin to also lengthen the breath with this. And then you'll slow the movement down to match that extended breath. The next time you complete this finger movement with the pointer finger, go ahead and just relax, release any of that movement. Continue with the extended breath though. We're breathing deeply, but it's comfortable, so we don't have to create any strain or stress with this. We're just inhaling to maybe an 85% of capacity. And then as you exhale, can you create approximately the same length when you release the breath as it took to bring the breath in? So today we're in the midst of beginning to open things back up after this pandemic slowly. And I really find it interesting that it's also occurring at springtime when things are emerging. So we're about to emerge into a different world and maybe even a different life for yourself. And just kind of recognizing what's shifted for you. what's shifted in the world or in our community even. Just look at that. And notice where you are with all of it, within yourself. Are you ready to move forward into this, new space we're about to come into? So spring is new. It's the first time I think any of us have experienced a pandemic and moving out of that. And hips are about moving forward. And so we're taking our hips and we're moving forward into this new life. And so take a moment to reflect upon what that feels like for you in your body. Notice what's coming up for you as I share that in the physical body. So rather than tuning into our stories, our beliefs or our fears, our thoughts, I'm going to invite you into just noticing where you're feeling this in the body, what reaction is the body having, and to really honor and nourish those places today in the practice. So although my intention is to come into a practice about hips, you also may have another part of the body that's asking for your attention. So honor that, modify anything you need to so that you deepen your listening skills of your inner teacher and take care of yourself today. So I'd like to begin our practice together with a reading by Susan Freibort, and it's called The Powerful Light of Hope. At the end of the hall of darkness, there is a light of hope that waits. For anyone who knows the internal pain of despair's bleak and isolating shadow, the ray from this glorious light is often seen as a faint glimmer, yet remarkably enduring. There is no fanfare, no grand announcement upon its arrival, for it seems it always was and tirelessly has always been. Its origin is ancient as the stars shining with an ever-present glow within a vast and moving galaxy. It is held up and lasted throughout time, despite the torments of life, and amid our suffering, it will continue to prevail. Its resiliency tested and passed down as humanity's birthright. It is kept alive within us and through our giving. However seen as large, however perceived as small, the power of hope offers its infinite light to all. Just noticing, honestly, who's here on the mat today. And your intention to honor that person, to remember we're not here to fix ourselves, we're not broken. Allow this practice to gift you with exactly what you need today. And a willingness with loving acceptance to accept who that is. So to begin some movement, let's go ahead and draw the knees into the chest. Bring your hands to your knees and just give yourself a little hug. We let the breath out as we bring the knees in close. And we inhale as they move arm lengths away. So Apanasana, knees to chest. Exhale as you pull them in. Inhale, arm lengths away. From here, let's take this into knee circles, so large or small in one direction. So you're kind of rolling from one side of your pelvis, the top of your pelvis, to the other across the sacrum and the low back. So when we work with our hips, we're not only going to be working with the outer hip, we're also going to get into the IT band, which goes from that outer hip all along the edge of the thigh and connects just below the knee. We're also going to be getting into our hip flexors, right? So we want to work through that whole area there and working with our mobility in our hips. Switch directions if you haven't already, circle the other way. And then we'll go ahead and take the knees and circle them wide. So we get a little bit into the inner thigh, into the groin, and then bring them together and back wide again. So we're just circling around. And then we'll place our feet into the floor, hip width apart and parallel. And if you're new to some of these exercises, you may want to watch me for a moment. We're going to do our hip hikers or sliders. So we just slide the hips up towards the shoulder. You're sliding them up the mat. The tailbone, the low back, the buttock stays on the floor. And you're just hiking them up towards one shoulder and then the next. So we're loosening up our sacrum here, which we want to do. And then really watching the knees. The knees are going to, if done correctly, they move towards you and away from you, kind of like a scissor motion. The movements are meant to be kept fairly small, though, so that the knees don't sway side to side. Okay, so very subtle movements here, really. Then we bring all that to center, and you're going to press into the right foot and point the right hip bone up to the ceiling. So the right buttocks will come off the floor, and then bring that back down. And then the same thing on the left side. The opposite buttock stays on the floor. And you're just pointing one hip up and then the other. And the same movement with the knees. They're going to move towards you and away from you, not side to side. And then we'll go ahead and just take a moment to alternate between those two. So do a few hip hikers or sliders. And then move into some hip pointers. And then go back and forth just a few more times. And we'll bring all that to center. And then we're going to open our arms wide. Take your feet out as wide as your mat. Okay, so a double knee drop. And release both knees to the right. And notice what you're feeling through that outer right hip and all the way down the thigh and maybe even to the knee. And then we're just going to pick up that left knee open wide. So now we get a little bit into the hip flexor and the groin. And then eventually the bottom knee follows and both knees drop over to the left. And pause, take a breath. Notice this left hip, left IT band. So from here, we just inhale the knees as wide as they will allow. And as they release to the opposite side, it's an exhale. So our double knee drop, inhaling, wide, exhaling, releasing. And remember that while we're on our backs here, we're just warming up. So we're not trying to take anything to our maximum edge. We're just really listening to what's going on in our hips today. So we take care of ourselves throughout the practice. And then to add on, if you'd like to rotate the head in the opposite direction of the knees, you may. And you're just moving into a gentle, very mild twist here, all the way up into the cervical spine. The next time your knees release to the right, both knees are released to the right, knees are wide, feet are wide, then slide your left arm all the way up so you're reaching. You want to try to reach so that the arm stays in contact with the floor though. So if you've extended that left arm up and it's like hanging in space, release it a bit away from you. Don't reach quite as far. And then really take some deep breaths in through the left rib cage, through that left hip and IT band. Just invite that to relax, just a very gentle stretch here. And then slowly release the arm. Bring the knees back up, open wide. Inhale. And then exhale, release the knees to the left. Okay, and then we'll slide the right arm up. And breathe into the right rib cage, right hip, right IT band. Just feel that stretch. You want to feel that through the shoulder. Same idea with the arm. Should be resting on the floor. Let's take 3 slow, deep breaths here. And then we'll go ahead and bring the knees back up to center, release the arm. And again, hug the knees into the chest. So round the low back. Just take a couple rounds, Apanasana, knees to chest. And then we'll go ahead and place the left foot into the floor, right ankle on the left knee. Now, some of you are really mobile in your hips and you might feel comfortable interlacing the hands behind the left thigh and picking this figure 4 up off the floor. We are still just warming up, so feel free to keep the left foot in the floor if you want, and simply place your right hand on your right knee and push it away from you. You'll also notice that if you flex the right foot, it helps to activate and protect the knee a bit. So if that feels good to you, just keep that in mind. And then whether you've chosen to take the left foot off the floor or keep it there, we can just rock side to side. And the movements aren't meant to be big. I'm not asking you to go into a full twist. It's just a few inches side to side, and you'll notice that you'll experience the stretch a little differently. And if you prefer to just stay center and still, that's fine too. Take several more deep breaths here. And let's go ahead and switch sides. Place the right foot in the floor and left ankle on the right knee. Notice how the knee's feeling, and if you'd like to flex that foot. And then you decide to either use your hand and just gently press the knee away from you, or interlace the hands through the hole behind the right thigh and pick that whole figure 4 up. Completely up to you. Breath is steady. And then again, maybe rocking side to side or stay still. That's fine too. You can just be in center and not move at all. And then go ahead and release that. Let's bring the right knee into the chest and extend the left leg out along the floor. Just going to hug that knee in, and then take the knee and feel like you're going to bring it and tuck it into the armpit. So the leg's going to move just a little bit wider. And you're going to try to tuck it in underneath your arm, your shoulder, your armpit, and then feel that stretch through the groin and the inner thigh here a bit. Nice even breathing. We'll bring the knee back to center. Take it in your left hand, extend the right arm out, and just bring it just across the body. We're not bringing it to the floor. So I've pulled my knee in fairly close towards me. I'm drawing it across, and again, just finding that stretch through the IT band and the hip. I'm not trying to move into a twist. Take about 3 more breaths here. And then we'll bring that knee back to center. Interlace the hands behind the right thigh and extend that foot to the ceiling. Just to the first point of sensation, we're just stretching through the back of the legs. We're opening it up, lengthening it out, pressing through both heels so the feet are flexed. And breathe here. So nice hamstring stretch. You might even, when you flex the foot, you might feel this through the calf and the Achilles. And then we'll go ahead and do that series on the other side. Let's release the right foot to the floor. Draw the left knee in. Extend the right leg out along the floor. Flex the foot. Now take your knee and try to tuck it into your armpit. So it's a little bit wider than just a chest, just a little bit out. Feel that stretch into the groin and the inner thigh. Pause and breathe here. Bring that knee to center, take it in your right hand. Extend the left arm out, and we're going to draw that knee across the body, just part way, just so you feel that stretch through the hip and the IT band again. Really not asking you to go into a full twist here. Smooth, steady breathing. And then we'll bring the knee back to center, interlace your hands behind the left thigh and extend the foot to the ceiling. Both feet are flexed. Breathe into the back of the leg here, stretching through the hamstring, calf, Achilles. Keeping the stretch mild, we're not trying to push ourselves. Take 2 more breaths here. Release that. Let's take a full body stretch, extending both legs along the floor, reaching the arms overhead. Just kind of reach right and left. And then we'll bend the knees, and let's go ahead and find our way to hands and knees. So just rolling to one side. Mindfully placing the palms into your mat at the front of your mat. Knees are hip width apart and underneath the hips. Palms slightly in front of the shoulders will create a little ease on the wrists. And then we'll just start with our cat-cow. So drawing the navel to the spine, exhaling round the spine. Tuck the tailbone, release the head, and then reverse that. Inhaling, gentle back bend. Connecting this movement with your breath, inhaling into the back bend, exhaling as you round like a cat. And the entire time, the core is engaged. And as we move into some of our next exercises, that's going to be a really important factor to remember and supporting our low backs. And then we'll take this from here and release into a child's pose, exhaling back, Balasana. And then inhaling up to hands and knees. And exhaling back. Lead with your heart and your breath. Creating a little larger movements to start to create a little more heat in the body until we get into the body of the practice. And then from here, let's decide whether or not you wish to add in down dog. So, and if you do, curl the toes under. Take the tailbone high into the sky. And on this first one, let's just walk it out. So just pedaling the feet, right? Bending the knees, shifting through the hips. And when you feel complete with that, come back down to the knees. Exhale into a child's pose. Pause and breathe. So the pose about going inward, gratitude, surrender. So let's go ahead and move through our mini flow just 3 times, just to kind of, again, create a little bit more warmth in the body. So you'll inhale up to hands and knees and exhale down dog. Inhale back to hands and knees and exhale child's pose. And again, inhale to knees, exhale down dog. Inhale back to hands and knees and exhale child's pose. Just go the last round on your own at your own pace. And as you drop into a child's pose, just take 2 to 3 deep breaths here into the back body. And then we'll go ahead, come on up to hands and knees. So we're going to be here for a few minutes. If your wrists get tired, know that you have an option to come up onto your fists. That can sometimes be nice. And some of these movements actually can be done from the forearms as well, if that helps you at all. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and extend the right leg straight back, hip height. And then on your exhale, you're going to tuck the knee underneath like you're trying to bring it to your nose. Your head tries to meet the knee, and then you extend back again. So this is activating our core for sure, so really keep that engaged. And we're also moving through our hip flexor, the front of the thigh, right? So just kind of warming that area up. And then, of course, as we extend back, you're activating the glute. So just really experience this in your body. Notice where you're feeling it. Connect the movement with the breath. And then the next time you extend the leg, hold there, flex that right foot. And then move the leg out wide to the right and back to center again. Just wide to the right and back to center. Keep your core engaged if you can. We're keeping that leg hip height. And really starting to create some warmth. I'm feeling it in my left glute and my outer right hip. So notice where you're feeling it. Don't make it wrong if it's different. We'll go one more. Make sure you're breathing. And then let's release that knee to the floor and back into a child's pose. Just come down. Release the wrists a little bit if you need to. And take a couple of breaths. And then we'll find our way back up. And we'll do the other side. So we're going to extend the left leg back. Try to come up out of the shoulders so we're not hunched. The shoulders are not hunched into the ears. Heart is open. Hip height. Engage the core. Hug that in. And then exhale. Tuck that knee under. Try to touch your nose to your knee. And then extend back again. These are very mindful and slow. So there's no swinging here. We want to be very deliberate with the movements. And then the next time you extend the leg back, we're going to go ahead and open that leg wide to the left and back again. The best you can in keeping it hip height, but you can always lower it if you need to. Keep that core engaged. So we're always working within our foundation and the other aspects of the pose that are involved here, or the body that's involved in the pose. Notice where you're feeling it on this side. Is it different? And then we'll bring that knee back down. And again, just release into a child's pose. Let go here, let the arms relax. Maybe reverse the wrists a little bit or shake them out. We're going to do one more exercise from hands and knees. So really listen to the wrists. We'll come back up to hands and knees. And this time we're going to go ahead and keep the right knee bent and extend the foot like you're trying to press the foot to the ceiling. So we're going to get the glute here a bit, but we're not going to be doing our, pressing the foot up to the ceiling. Keep the core strong. What we're going to do is you're going to open the knee out wide to the right, swing it forward underneath you and back up again. So we're taking the knee and circling it out wide up towards you, underneath, and then back up to the ceiling again. Okay, so it's just full mobility in the hip joint, and really keep the core engaged here. And then we'll reverse that. Draw the knee underneath you first, then bring it wide back out and around. Okay, so we're just reversing the circle 4 times around. And then we'll move to the other side. Right knee goes into the floor, left foot up to the ceiling, knee bent. Wide first, pull it in towards you, underneath, and back up again. Core is engaged the whole time. Again, if the wrists are getting tired, you can try this from the forearms or the fists. We'll do 4 more. Draw the knee underneath you first, then out wide and back around. Keep breathing. And then release into a child's pose. All the way back. Reverse the wrists if you need to. And take a couple of deep breaths here. All right, so let's find our way back to hands and knees. And we're going to bring our left foot to the front of our mat in a low lunge. Okay. If you have blocks, you're welcome to use them here on either side of that left foot. We've got 3 different heights to work with. I'll bring mine out just to show that. You don't have to have them. They are really nice though if you do. Just creates a little more ease in your movement, a little more spaciousness in the body. So from here, we're going to come into our lunge rock. So as we come forward, we're releasing into this right hip flexor just slightly. It's a slight stretch, please. And you want to pay attention to what's going on with this left knee. So if you're in too narrow of a stance, the knee ends up coming way in front of the toes, and we don't want that. So make sure that you bring the knee back, your right knee back farther. You have a wider stance. So as you release into that hip flexor, you come forward into that knee, it stays behind the toes. And then we'll rock back and start to straighten that front leg. Maybe the left toes, you can allow the left toes to come off the floor if you want to, or you can keep the foot in the floor. It just changes where you feel the stretch. Either way is fine. And we'll just move in and out of this. We inhale forward and exhaling back. Inhaling forward, the heart opens, the head lifts. And we exhale, draw back, folding inward. Okay, so as we come forward, we're noticing the hip flexor, the right hip flexor. And as we draw back, we're noticing the left hamstring. And the next time you come forward, pause in a fairly neutral position so we're not feeling much of a stretch in that hip flexor. And you're going to take your left hand to the outer left knee. Okay, so we're going to do our resistance work. Most of you have done this with me before, and this is where we're going to go ahead and do a lot more of this on Friday's class. So you're going to take the knee, you're going to press it into the hand, you're going to rotate to the outer edge of that left foot, but there's real resistance. The hand's trying to press the knee back to center or keep it there, but the knee wins and you really open as wide as it's comfortable for you. Then we bring it back to center, the hand's pressing the knee back, but the knee resists. Right? So just 4 rounds here, moving back and forth in this resistance strength work. Okay, and then we'll find our way back to center. And then slowly bring the left heel and the right knee like you're trying to pull them together. Feel the core lift. And then from there, slightly release or release into your hip flexor for a stretch. Take a few more breaths here. And we'll slowly come out of that stretch. And you can, if you're using blocks, you can walk them back with you. And we're going to come into this hamstring stretch. And notice if the toes are pointed, you're going to feel this to the shin as well. If you bring the toes up off the floor, you're going to start to feel this more in the calf. It's up to you. And then as you draw back, notice what's going on in the low back. It's going to want to round. Everything's going to want to round, and that shortens that hamstring attachment. So we want to take the pelvis and feel like you're creating an anterior tip of the pelvis. You're tipping the pelvis forward, which lengthens the low back, and you're going to feel this stretch a lot more. Okay, now if you have really tight hamstrings, you're going to minimize that tilting of the pelvis a bit. And then for those of you who have more mobility, you'll be able to tip the pelvis a little bit more. Keep breathing. And then we'll bring the blocks back forward if you have them, if you're using them. Move them off to the front of your mat. And let's go ahead and press back into down dog, or you can come into a child's pose if you don't want to do another down dog right now. And maybe walk that out a little bit. Just kind of notice the difference between the right and the left sides, what sides are kind of a little more awake than others. And then we'll come back to the knees and release into a child. Take a few breaths, and again, feel the difference between one side and the other. Notice if there's any sensations that are different. And we'll come on up, and we'll bring the right foot forward. Okay, if you're using blocks, bring those back. So the first thing we always find or discover is our foundation. So just noticing how far apart the right foot from the left knee is. If you come forward, where does that right knee end up? So just make sure it stays behind the toes. Modify or make any adjustments you need to, and then you'll go ahead and rock back and forth. Exhale back, and inhale forward. It's up to you whether you want to leave the right toes in the floor or bring them off as you draw back. And the next time we come forward into our lunge, we're going to go ahead and take the palm of our right hand to the knee, the right knee, and we're going to do that same resistance. So we're going to press the knee in the hand as the hand tries to press it back. We're rolling to the outer edge of that right foot and then back to center, or as far as it feels right for you. That may not go all the way out to that wide, that's fine. Only 4 rounds, that's all you need to do. Resisting both directions. Wonderful strength work through the outer hip and the IT band. When you've done 4 rounds, we're going to go ahead and try to isometrically pull the right heel, left knee towards one another, and then slowly release into that left hip flexor. It may be different than the other side. Just breathe here. We're only taking this to a moderate stretch. We're not trying to take anything to our maximum edge. The body will resist that, and it's where injuries occur. And then slowly begin to rock back. Bring the blocks back with you if you're using them. If not, no problem, right? You just have your hands on the floor. Decide whether or not you want your toes up off the floor or in. Just feel the difference. And then once you've found your position there, notice the pelvis and tip the pelvis forward. It's like you're trying to draw yourself into a back bend so that you lengthen that hamstring. And then breathe here. And then we'll slowly come forward, move the blocks off out of the way if you're using them, and press back into a down dog, or you can simply drop into a child's pose. That's totally fine. If you're in down dog, just kind of walk it out a little bit. And then inhale to your knees. And release into a child's pose. Let's come together there and breathe. All right, so let's find our way into some standing poses. We're going to go ahead first, find our way into down dog, and then walk your feet forward to your hands to the front of your mat. Hang out for a moment in this standing forward fold, Uttanasana. Let the head relax. Spine is draping over the thighs. If you have a block nearby and want to use it, you can. It lifts you up just a little bit and eases that stretch. Or you also simply have the opportunity to bend the knees if you need to, right? We want the hands on the floor so we're not hanging out in space up here, which can put a lot of strain on the back. So we really want to try to lengthen that out and over. And then to find our way to standing, bring your hands to your hips. Bend the knees, engage with your core, navel to spine, and then lengthen the heart forward and come on up to standing. All right. Okay, so let's start with bringing our left foot back, taking a nice wide stance. And we're going to come into an extended side angle, and I'm going to show you different variations. I forgot to tell you we can bring a block with us if we want to. I'm just going to place my block at level 3 to the inner edge of my right foot. Now you may or may not want to use the block, but it's there as an option. Okay. So to find our way into the pose, this is the same foundation we would use in our warrior 2. We're going to bend into that front knee. The back foot is anchored to the outer edge of the foot and the mound of the big toe, and the back leg is straight, strong, but without locking the knee. All right. Then as we bend into this right knee, okay, we're going to lightly rest our right forearm. The right palm is up to the ceiling. Now take a look down the left leg and notice, does your view hit your hip bone? And then you can barely see your toes. Then we want to draw that hip back so you can see down the entire length of that left leg. And then notice the right knee, because it tends to want to drop in when we do that. So the knee stays aligned over the ankle, and you can still see the entire back left leg. Okay. Lengthen through that right side body, and then you have the option to keep your left hand on your hip, keep the core strong, or bring the left arm straight up, or even all the way over, reaching through those left fingertips. And then we can take the gaze up underneath the left arm. Keep that core strong, keep your breath flowing, and just feel that openness through the groin and the inner thigh. The right hip flexor is compressed while the left one is opening. You're just kind of noticing those things. And then the last option you have is to extend the left arm up to the ceiling and bring your right hand to the block. It just changes the line of energy in the upper body. But that's not necessary. You don't have to come to this position if you don't choose to. What serves you today? What enables you to find balance between the effort and ease of the practice and to maintain that nice, long, smooth breath? Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then slowly press into that right foot. Use your core to come back up. Okay, and then step your left foot forward. And just kind of feel the pose. Shake that leg out if you need to. I'm just going to switch sides so I'm facing the camera still. Okay. So from here, we're going to step our right foot all the way back. Right, so the width between your feet is really determined by how deeply you plan on bending into this knee. If we bring our forearm down, we have to bend into it pretty deeply. And just like in our low lunge, we want to make sure the knees do not come out in front of the toes. So you would step that back foot farther back if that's happening. Okay. Anchor in that back foot, so press to the outer edge of that foot and the mound of the big toe. The leg is strong. You're engaging the quadricep here without locking the knee. So just notice if you have a tendency to lock into that knee joint, we want to create a little micro bend. Okay? And then we bend into that front knee, your left knee, with the left forearm lightly resting on the thigh. And then look down that leg. Can you see the whole leg? Bring that hip back if you can't. And then take a look at the left knee and just make sure it's tracking directly over the ankle. Engage with the core, extend through the left side body, heart stays open. Okay? And then you can bring the right arm straight up or all the way overhead if that feels better. Just a different line of energy from finger to toes. Take a few breaths here. You can rotate the gaze up underneath the arm if that feels okay to you. Modify anything along the way. Take care of you. You can also have the option to keep your hand on your hip. And then of course you have the block there. If you do have a block there, you can bring the left hand to the block and extend the right arm straight up. So our line of energy is coming through the upper back from the right fingertips to the left. Take a few more breaths here. And then to come out of the pose, release that right arm, engage with the core, press into that left foot to come back up. You might want to narrow the stance just a little bit, heel toe that back foot, and then safely step it to the front of your mat. Okay. I'm going to do one more standing pose. Okay. So let's do Utthita Trikonasana or triangle pose. So we're going to step our left foot back. For those of you who have been working with me for a while, you've heard this before. Sometimes it's nice to narrow our stance in triangle pose compared to our warrior poses. It just creates a little bit more ease in the hip and low back. It doesn't have to be. You might, if you normally take that wide stance for warrior two or that extended side angle and that feels good in triangle, that's fine. I just want to offer this to you because I have really found this has helped me in my triangle pose as I narrow my stance by maybe 6 inches or so at the most. Okay. The front leg now is going to stay straight. So we're going to modify this however we need to, whether it's to a block or the back of the hand only comes to the knee or just below the knee, right? Okay, let's have our left hand on the hip, reach with the right. And we want to fold into that right hip flexor, not our waist, right? So we're not folding in the spine to get here. We're keeping that side body long and we're shift the hips back and fold into that right hip flexor. And then just kind of notice where that right hand makes it. So mine's just below my knee right now, okay? And then same thing as extended side angle, look at that left leg. Can you see the whole leg? Okay, so make that adjustment if you can't, bring that hip back. And then the left arm comes up. So we want to feel like the back body's lying up against a wall or you are between two panes of glass. Core is strong, and as we hold in the pose, you might notice you can begin to lower a little more deeply, but maybe it feels good to stay up a little higher today, right? You find your just right place. I'm going to come to the block. I'm going to give that a try. And then the last thing is the gaze. Maybe that shifts up to the ceiling. And just take some nice deep breaths here. Core engaged. You might even bend into that front knee to press into that right foot. If you're using a block, you'll keep it there. I'm going to be switching sides, but you'll step that left foot to the front of your mat. Okay? And then we'll switch sides. We're going to step our right foot back. I'm just going to turn around. Okay, so first thing we come into is our foundation. How wide do you want your feet? Okay, and then you're going to anchor through that outer edge of that back foot in the mound of the big toe. Leg is strong and straight without locking the knee. Right hand stays on the hip. Extend the left arm out. Now notice you can shift your hips here, right? So I'm taking my right hip, shifting it back, lengthening through my left side body. So I'm just folding into the left hip flexor, not my waist. Okay, so really important here. So we keep that spine elongated. And then the back of the left hand comes to wherever it lands. Mine's just below my knee right here. So I'm going to take a moment to pause there and breathe, see how that feels. And then maybe I'll work my way a little deeper into the pose. Again, I'm going to find the block on this side. Right. Heart is open. And then my right arm, or your right arm, you extend it straight up or keep it here. That's fine too. And then your gaze can shift up to the ceiling if that's in your practice today, if that's available. Keep your core engaged and keep the breath flowing. So although we're feeling this a lot maybe in your hamstrings, we're really also in both these standing poses have been getting into our hips as well. Take a couple more breaths here. To come out of the pose, release that right arm, really keep your core strong, bend into that left knee as you press into that foot, and come on up. And then just bring that right foot forward a little bit, step to the front of your mat. Take a moment to just simply feel the effects of the pose. Just feel the echo of the practice in your body, just noticing the sensations, the subtle energy body, and you might be noticing some more obvious sensations than that. Good, so we're going to go ahead and move towards the floor into a stretch here. So from the front of your mats, inhale, reach up. Palms together, exhale down through center, fold forward. Go ahead and walk both feet back into down dog or hands and knees if you'd prefer. And then we'll go ahead and find our child's pose. Take a few breaths here. Okay, so I'm going to offer pigeon pose this morning, or today, but I'm going to really encourage those of you with any kind of knee stuff, you're going to roll onto your backs and come into the figure 4 that we did at the beginning of class. Okay, so really important. If you'd like to do pigeon pose, you're going to bring that right knee forward and your right heel is towards your left hip flexor. And then you want to flex that right foot. That helps to protect the knee. And I'm up a little bit higher right now because I'm going to slowly walk my left leg back, keeping my pelvis square as I slowly bring it down into the floor. Maybe you stay up here. You can also take a block and tuck it underneath the buttocks if that helps you. Right, so that feels really nice for me on this right side because this hip is sensitive. Right, so I stay up a little bit higher. Now you can stay up on the hands, or you can come forward onto the forearms, which actually releases the stretch just a bit. So really kind of check out the pelvis because we want to keep it square. And then just breathe here. We won't hold too long. And for those of you in figure 4, you're going to have your right ankle on your left knee. And then you can interlace your hands through the hole behind the left thigh and pick that foot up off the floor if you choose. You'll find a nice stretch there into the hip as well. That's a little safer on the knees than pigeon pose. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then we'll go ahead and come on up. Release that knee. You're going to come back to hands and knees. You have an option to maybe extend that leg back, kind of shake it out, or those of you who on figure 4 on your backs could do knees to chest or knee circles. You might want to come into down dog for some of you who are in pigeon pose, if that would feel good. And then we'll go ahead and find the other side. So for those of you in figure 4 on your backs, left ankle to the right knee. For those of you in pigeon pose, left knee forward. Okay. Stay up high just for a moment. The left heel is aligned with the right hip flexor. And then we slowly work our way back, keeping the pelvis square so we don't drop over onto that left hip. We want to keep the hips square, and if need be, a blanket, a block, or a pillow can go underneath that left hip flexor, that left buttocks. Right? So it hits the floor sooner, essentially. You can stay up, or you can come down into the form, folding forward a bit. And settled into your pose, find your breath. One more breath here. And then we'll slowly come up. Release out of your pose. If you're on your back, just knees to chest is fine. Out of pigeon pose, maybe you'd like to do a little cat-cow or circling of the hips or walking it out in down dog. Any and all of the above is fine. Do what feels right for you. And then we're going to go ahead and come onto our backs. And we're going to do one more hip stretch here. We're going to take our strap or a belt if you have it. If you don't have either, you can simply use your hands. It's okay. You can modify this, and I'll show that as well. So if you do have a strap or a belt, you're going to place it around the ball of the right foot and hold that in your left hand. Okay. We'll extend the right arm out. If you don't have a strap, you're going to probably take a hold of the hand. Your hand's going to come to your shin or your knee. We're going to draw across the body here. Okay. Extend the left leg out along the floor, the right arm out. Now, the farther away the leg is from you, the easier this is. We're going to find a stretch to that outer right hip and IT band. The closer the leg is in towards you, the more challenging this is going to be. Okay, so kind of find that place. Now, some of you might be able to take this leg all the way to the floor. However, keep your right shoulder anchored in your mat. Okay, so that doesn't roll up with you. That stays in the mat, and the leg opens to the left or twists to the left. Okay, so the intention here isn't really so much about a twist as it is to feel the stretch down the entire outer right leg. Nice steady breaths here. And let's go ahead and bring that back up to center. Bend the knee. Release that leg out along the floor next to the left. Shake that out a little bit. When you're ready, we'll switch sides. So we'll place the strap or the belt around the ball of the left foot if you're using one. Right hand will hold on to the strap. Left arm extends out. And again, just kind of noticing whether you're going to pull the leg in closer towards you or away from you, and then start to draw it across the body too. Just start to feel that stretch to the outer left leg. And then breathe there. Keep your left shoulder in the floor. And then we'll bring that leg back up. Release the strap off to the side. Extend the left leg too, and then just shake that out a little bit. Bend both knees. Draw them into the chest. And we'll take just a little Apanasana here. Knee circles. And then I'm going to invite you into Shavasana, extending the legs out along the floor. Maybe you'd like a pillow or a blanket rolled underneath the knees, which is really nice for the low back. You can have a blanket underneath your head if you want. Rolling the shoulder blades onto the back body, so it opens the heart, and the arms out from your side. Palms up. I'm just going to invite you into 3 deep breaths to help you drop in, so that each exhale is it's about completely surrendering, letting go, releasing into gravity. I'm going to take you through a guided Shavasana this morning. So make any last minute adjustments you need to get comfortable. Allow the eyes to softly close. And take a few moments to scan your awareness through the sensations of your body. And just wherever possible, soften and release any areas that may be still feeling a little bit of tension. And after that body scan, come back to the flow of your breath again. Experience the sense of your body as a whole body, simply lying there and breathing. When you feel ready, just picture in your mind's eyes the image of a lake. This may be a lake that you know well, a favorite lake, or it could be in your imagination, or maybe it's one you've seen a photograph of. Just see if you can bring that image into vivid focus in your mind's eye. Notice how it's an extended body of water held within the Earth's surface, and perhaps fed by a stream, a spring. If you watch and observe the lake carefully, you'll notice that it's always changing, and yet it's always itself. It changes as the sun moves across the sky, the light reflected off the water in different ways. It changes depending on the weather. Sometimes on very calm days, the surface might be like glass and reflect virtually everything with great precision that comes by. Clouds, birds, the trees that might be surrounding the lake, the sun as it makes its journey across the sky, and for that matter, the moon and the stars at night. There are times when the lake is extremely reflective and contains, in a certain way, everything that comes by or over it. In different periods of time, the surface might be choppy and sometimes quite pronounced in the waves, in which times the light might sparkle off the waves in different ways. Notice how the lake changes depending on the season. In the winter, depending on where this lake is, it might actually be frozen over. Through day and night and through the seasons and through the years, the lake is constantly changing, but always its own essential nature. Now see if you can invite the lake to exist within your own body lying here, so that your body becomes the lake itself. You can imagine feeling held and embraced as you lie here, aware of the many ways in which your own mind is like the surface of the lake, sometimes highly reflective, sometimes choppy. Getting in touch with the sense of the entirety of the lake, the full body of water, not only in the surface, but also down below. As you lie here, experience the fullness of your own being, so that even at times when your mind is choppy and upset or reactive or dealing with difficult things, you can drop down beneath the surface of your own mind's waves and find a stillness and a calmness that's always here and always available to you with each moment, with each breath. Lying here under the canopy of your vast awareness, experiencing the moment-to-moment changes in your body and sensations, thoughts, feelings, impulses, sounds, and all the while lake-like, just simply lying here watching the play of the weather of your mind and body. Allowing your awareness to hold it all, moment by moment, breath by breath, in your own fullness, in your own completeness. Slowly deepen your breath. Maybe wiggle some fingers and toes. Just kind of stretch out, bring yourself back into your body. And then slowly roll to one side, take a few breaths there. And find your way to a seated position, bringing your hands together at your heart. May you be at peace. May your hearts remain open. May you awaken to the light of your own true nature. May you be healed. And may you be a source of healing for all beings. Thank you for allowing me to take the seat of teacher. Namaste.